New versions of Matter enable robot vacuum support across smart home systems, and it's all coming to Apple Home this fall. So the quest is on to find the perfect Matter robot vacuum, and SwitchBot just released their new K10 Pro, which is another powerful vacuum from SwitchBot in a very small package. But is this small package powerful enough and good enough to work well in your smart home? I'm Eric Welander. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I've been an app developer on Apple platforms since 2011 and building out my smart home here on YouTube since 2018. So if you're into Apple or smart home tech, consider subscribing. Now, here in my small home office, I like having a robot vacuum to clean every night. It just makes a world of difference. It's very easy to automate in this enclosed space, and it's just nice to not have to worry basically at all about cleaning up the floors in here. Kind of like if you work in a real deal office outside your home and a cleaning crew comes in periodically to shape things up. Now, with a small space though, there are plenty of small corners and things like an office chair, and so the idea of having a small robot to fit in these tiny spaces is very attractive. But I also want something that has the power and capabilities to clean the rest of my basement. And that's what made me really interested in checking out the K10 Pro from SwitchBot. And thanks to SwitchBot for sending me this vacuum so I could check it out for this review. It is not sponsored. So in the box, you get the vacuum, the base station, and compared to other vacuums, the interesting part about this base station is that it doesn't require a base plate. So it just freely sits on the floor. And so it just means the whole setup takes up less space in your room, which is great considering the small footprint being nice in small spaces. Now, they also supply a number of spare vacuum bags, which is really nice since a lot of these robot vacuum companies love to sell you more replacement bags. With that, SwitchBot's also made this bag what they claim double the size of the typical bag, which sounds about right to me. It's about a 4-liter size bag as opposed to what they say is the typical 2 liters. So just comparing around some of my experience with robot vacuums, it is a much bigger bag, which means it can fit more dirt, which means you have to empty it and or replace it much less often. So you download the SwitchBot app, get the robot on your Wi-Fi. You can also connect it to your SwitchBot hub, which we'll talk about in a minute. That's required to use Matter. And then it does a map and clean of your space. And after that initial mapping and cleaning, you can assign different room labels so that you can tell it to specifically clean certain areas of that floor plan. And you can actually use this vacuum across up to 10 different floor plans. So it's nice with robot vacuums. You can have it charging, let's say on one floor of your home, but then carry it to somewhere else where then you want it to automatically clean as well. And it can then recognize and remember that same location. Now, I set this up as well in the SwitchBot app to have a schedule where every morning, early in the morning before any of us get up, it goes around my office and cleans. And this is where the size is really a benefit. It can get into smaller spaces in my office, but at the same time, it also means that it gets stuck in places like under my office chair or in certain corners. Now, to put some numbers to how much smaller this robot vacuum is, it's about 4 inches in diameter less than the typical robot vacuum width. When you look at the specs, it does have a 360-degree omnidirectional PSD lateral edge sensor along with a LiDAR sensor, so it should have pretty good optical avoidance, especially if you keep the lights on in the room, which I do for this time when the robot runs in the early morning. I have my smart home turn on the lights in here and then turn them off when the robot's done, but it's still getting stuck a lot of places. I think that something about maybe the smaller package size, are they able to fit enough obstacle avoidance sensors and cameras compared to bigger robots that could steer around things? Or is it just a function of because it's smaller, it's able to get itself into more obstacles that wouldn't be a problem for larger robots because the larger robots simply wouldn't fit in those small spaces. I also had the obstacle avoidance struggle when I have it clean the broader basement. My dumbbells that I have sitting out in my basement seem to perplex the robot, and it was going around in circles around those and just cleaning that one area and not spreading out to more space. But overall, it still does do a great job vacuuming things like carpets, But that's another downside potentially of the smaller design and less features. This robot doesn't have increased suction power when it's over carpet. So the max suction power is 3,000 pascals, but you can, in certain vacuums, have the vacuum go to a higher power level when it goes over carpet. Now, 3,000 pascals is still very powerful, especially for a robot of this size. So I'm not complaining too much, but it is just something to be aware of if you're really counting on it deep cleaning your carpets. Another downside of this smaller robot is that it doesn't have mopping capability like some of SwitchBot's other robots and robots from other companies. So you're not going to be able to have it mop your floors with this. Of course, that would make also for a larger base station if it was going to empty and get water inside the base station. So I like that SwitchBot is making a small and affordable vacuum that's just focused on vacuuming, but it might not be for you if you are also looking for something that can mop the floors. Now, aside from it getting trapped a few places and getting confused, maybe it's not quite as smart at those things as the latest and greatest bigger size vacuums. It's still been a great performing robot. It goes around and cleans up the dirt in my office and in the broader basement. One other great feature of this robot is that it's very quiet. It has a silent mode, which isn't completely silent, but is rated at 45 decibels, which is not very loud at all. Very much something you could run even when people are, let's say, sleeping in the room next door to the robot. And then, of course, as you up the power to their max mode, it gets, of course, a little bit louder. But I really do like that they added this quiet mode, because maybe if you don't live in a single family home, you have an adjoining wall to your neighbor, you might not want this robot making a lot of noise early in the morning when it's automatically cleaning a room for you. All right, so even though my filming lights are all blasting at full percent, it's actually late at night and I need to explain some details about this robot making noise in the evenings. You see, there's this setting in the robot called Do Not Disturb, and it encourages you to turn it on. And what this does is it reduces the sounds the robot makes when Do Not Disturb is on. So for example, it's not gonna make talking sounds or sound effects, which is wonderful. But at the same time, it also means that it's not going to empty the dustbin, because emptying the dustbin makes a lot of noise. Now, you can go about this in two different ways. The first, like I did, is if you have a room that's way far away from anywhere where you sleep and you want it to run at night, then just be sure Do Not Disturb is off, and then the robot will empty the dustbin like normal. There's no way that that noise is going to wake us up all the way up where we sleep from down here in the basement. Now, on the other hand, if you do need to be concerned about noise levels, you can reduce the intensity of emptying the bin, which might reduce the sound a little bit, but you can also just run the robot periodically during the day as well, and then when Do Not Disturb is not on, it will also empty the dustbin. So then, even though you're running it at night and it's vacuuming, just be aware that in that case, with Do Not Disturb on, the dustbin's not getting emptied into the base station. I think this is a really good, thoughtful setting from SwitchBot, but just something you need to be aware of. I do want to talk also about the Matter integration. This requires SwitchBot's Hub 2, which you might already have set up if you use other SwitchBot accessories. And this is a cool little hub because it comes with a nice digital screen on the front to see the temperature around the hub as well as the humidity. And it's an interesting kind of idea from SwitchBot that it kind of encourages you to put this hub out somewhere where it might have better wireless signal than if you just shove it in a closet. But either way, adding it to Apple Home is very straightforward, and you can actually already do that with iOS 17. You don't need to wait for some of the new Matter features coming in future versions of iOS 18. Now, unfortunately, right now, it just shows as a simple switch. So you can turn the switch on in Apple Home and then it will run the vacuum. And then of course, when the vacuum's done, the switch will turn off, or you can have it stop by turning off the switch. And you can connect that to any number of automations in Apple Home or maybe other Matter smart home platforms. But if you want to dial in the detailed settings about the vacuum, for the time being, you're still going to have to use the SwitchBot app for that. Hopefully that will be coming in future updates to the Matter standard in apps like Apple Home. And so Is this vacuum right for you? I think if you already have your SwitchBot hub, or it's something you're considering getting into, you like the idea of a vacuum tailored to cleaning smaller spaces, then this vacuum could be a really good fit. But at the same time, I think if you're trying to buy it right now in the fall of 2024 for something that supports Matter, a little bit of that is still a question mark. Obviously, this vacuum has been aggressive as possible in supporting the new standards, but we've still yet to see all the details land. So I think this is definitely one I would consider to use with Matter with Apple Home. It's certainly going to be one of the more affordable options because a lot of vacuum companies are making that initially just in their higher end vacuums. So definitely something to keep on your radar if you're interested in the Matter compatibility. But I think right now, just buying it as a robot vacuum, especially if you're already into SwitchBot, it could be a great choice. Now, there are links down in the description if you want to check it out. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Thanks again so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and I'll see you in the next video.